Quite a few important world news I'd like to talk about today. They are from China, Colombia, Belarus, Afghanistan, Yemen, Russia, Iran. But one particular news is overshadowing everything right now, and it's coming from the southern part of the United States of America. Howdy, howdy, friends. My name is Konstantin, and welcome to Inside Russia, where usual Russia is explained by the unusual Russian. Every Wednesday, I give you my takes on important world news, how they are seen from Russia. Before I start straight to the news, jump straight to the news, I would like to ask you a favor. I would like to ask you to like this message right now. Please hit the like button in advance. You can always unlike it later if you don't like what you hear, but now please like it. Thank you so very much. Let's start with refreshing our memories. Remember who Viktor Bout is? This guy right here. This message. The Russian who organized illegal international weapons trade of a cosmic scale. The Russian responsible for dozens of deaths all over the world. The Lord of the War. Literally, they made a movie about this guy and called it Lord of War. Nicolas Cage played Viktor Bout. He's not a good guy. Viktor Bout was caught by the USA in 2008. He was sentenced to 25 years in American prison. Well, Viktor Bout returned to Russia in 2022 as a part of a prisoner swap between Moscow and Washington. In Russia, we have a saying, Горбатова могила исправит. English language equivalent is something like, the leopard will not change his spots. Viktor Bout is involved in negotiations with the Yemen Houthi rebels about the sales of weapons. Right now, it's happening. That is according to the Wall Street Journal. That cites an unnamed European security official and several other sources that cannot be named. According to the Wall Street Journal sources, in August of 2024, just a few weeks ago, Bout met with the representatives of the Yemen group in Moscow, to discuss the sale of $10 million worth of firearms. And the deal was reportedly finalized, involving the delivery of small arms to Houthis. Now, do you think Viktor Bout could continue to keep on making illegal deals in Russia, not having anyone standing behind his back, covering his back? Does the certain all-powerful agency comes in mind? Anyone? So the next time you hear about another attack by Houthis onto peaceful sailors, you know who stands behind that attack. Viktor Bout, the convicted criminal, and Russia, right behind its back. Let's continue with real bad people. Bad news first, and then I promise it's gonna get a little more amusing. Let's continue with Afghanistan and the Taliban. Russia is finalizing the process of removing the Taliban from the list of terrorist organizations. What? Because the actions of the Taliban are aimed at restoring order and maintaining stability in Afghanistan. Oi. Did you understand what I just said? I read it again. the actions of the Taliban are aimed at restoration order and maintaining stability in Afghanistan. Establishing pragmatic cooperation with them through special services is in the mutual interest of both parties. I just quoted the KGB director Alexander Bortnikov. That was reported by the Interfax. That's a Russian news agency. According to the Russian representative in Afghanistan, Kabulov, the decision to remove the Taliban from the list of terrorists and extremists has already been made at the highest level. The actions of the Taliban are aimed at restoring order and maintaining stability in Afghanistan. Well, that's, my friends, a shame. That's a big shame. That's the same Taliban that... Now let's talk about what they have done since 2021 when they took Afghanistan over. The bans were imposed on certain professions, and the wearing of burqa, also known as the shadwar, was made compulsory for women. Education for women has become completely inaccessible, with girls not being allowed to attend even primary schools. Women are prohibited from visiting beauty salons, parks, gyms, public baths, and are also prohibited from receiving traveling more than 78 kilometers without the accompaniment of a man or a close relative. Women who break the Taliban law are stoned to death. And instead of the picture that I just showed you, I wanted to show a different picture, but it's too brutal. I don't think it would be good for mental health. Taliban are not doing nice things to Afghani women. And the Human Rights Watch, this big international organization, calls the situation with women's rights in Afghanistan catastrophe and the worst among all countries in the world. The worst for mental health. The worst in the world. But the Russian government says the actions of the Taliban are aimed at restoration order and maintaining stability in Afghanistan. No further comments are needed. The FSB director said it all. I have absolutely nothing to add. And now let's talk about bricks. Not the construction bricks, construction material, but the International Organization of Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. The organization that Russia is pushing so very hard these days. Boy, oh boy, what a day for BRICS. What a victory for Russia. Another mighty powerful country, another model democracy knocked on BRICS' door begging for acceptance, and that is Syria. On October 5th, Russia's biggest state informational agency, TASS, came out with a sensational news. Syria is with us. And Russian propaganda picked it up immediately. In this time when good news in Russia are so rare, Syria joining BRICS is huge. The triumph lasted for quite some time. Well, to be exact, for 24 hours. On October 6th, the next day, Syrian ambassador Bashar Jafari said that his words about countries applying to become a member of BRICS were incorrectly translated. Now, imagine this situation. The Syrian ambassador is meeting a Russian minister of foreign affairs or deputy minister I mean, it's a big deal. The interpreters doing translation are very professional, the best of the best, really, and I believe that. I've seen the people who translate at the highest level. They're bilingual, okay? So the best of the best, very serious conversation. Things get it translated by the translators, interpreters who speak both languages naturally, and all of a sudden, there are many of them, not just one person, many who translate just in case. And all of a sudden, they make a very serious mistake. They incorrectly translate something as serious and as straightforward as Syria submitting an application to join BRICS. It is absolutely impossible. Who are they lying at TASS and the ministry and the foreign ministry of Russia? I think that what the Syrian ambassador said, and this is in Russian, but basically he said his words were misinterpreted, not understood, okay? What he said was, they lied. The Syria did not apply. Only he said it very indirectly in a perfect tradition of diplomatic language. And what about Russian Foreign Ministry and TASS? What did they say? Oh, all they said was, oops. Another news comes from Iran. And after the outbreak of this new conflict between Israel and Hezbollah, and the unprecedented level of shelling of Israel territory with ballistic missiles from Iran about a week ago, Russia once again sided with Ayatollah Khamenei. The Russian government called the elimination of the terrorist leader a political assassination. And the Russian propaganda has been spreading false information about the success of the Iranian attack 7 days ago. Russia's alliance with Iran is growing closer, political alliance. But the Iranian citizens, the regular people of Iran, treat Russians even worse than they treat Israelis. This paradox was recently discussed by Russian political scientist Abbas Galyamov, the guy that whose opinion I highly value. According to a recent poll conducted in Iran, only 23% of Iranians agreed with the phrase, "death to Israel," while 65% disagreed. Only 18% supported the phrase, "death to America," while 73% expressed disagreement. I mean, it's not too bad compared with how the Iranians, what attitude they had in the past. There's an improvement. Galyamov notes that the image of Iran as a country of fanatics created by its government is literally crumbling. Countries that zealously support the Ayatollah often arouse negative feelings among the local population, among the Iranians. Only 25% of Iranians have a positive attitude towards Russia. 75% do not. 2/3 of Iranians said they didn't like the plans to conclude a 20-year-long cooperation agreement between Iran and Russia. 2/3. Only 15% approved it. To sum up, this is how the dominant attitude in Iranian society can be described towards the regime, the Iranian regime, the Ayatollah, and those who are around him, its allies, and its foreign policy. Yes, Israel is an enemy, but we like Russia even less, which you impose on us as an ally. In general, we would like to see you all burn in one furnace. And that seems to be the attitude of Iranian people now. The next news comes from Kazakhstan. Kazakhstan is a country of Central Asia. It's south of Russia. And it's right next to, it's between Russia, China, and Uzbekistan. So, Kazakhstan needs electricity, electrical power, bad. There was a nationwide referendum conducted just a couple days ago on October 6th with only one question on the ballot. Does Kazakhstan need a nuclear plant, power plant? Right now the votes are still being counted, but it appears that over 70% of voters said yes. Kazakhstan does need a nuclear power plant. This is what happened. And this is the Kazakh president. He's saying that he thinks that the nuclear power plant is needed, but the government needs to approach this issue very carefully. And he thinks that safety should be priority number one, and the international consortium of companies must be made responsible for construction. But that's his personal opinion. According to the local officials, the primary reason for the construction of this new nuclear power plant is the increasing energy demands. Well, the country is growing, its economy is growing, and it needs more energy. It makes sense. The experts predict that by 2030, the country will experience a deficit of from 2 to 2.5 gigawatts. That's a lot. And some regions are already facing this challenge. You see, electricity generation in the country is unevenly distributed. There's a surplus in the north, where electricity is supplied from Russia, and there's a lack of centralization in the energy system in general. Currently, the construction of a nuclear power plant is considered in the south of the country, in the Almaty region. They hope the power plant would improve the stability of Kazakhstan's energy supply, although some environmental activists are opposed to the project, and it always happens to the nuclear plants. I have nothing against them, by the way. 6 foreign companies have already submitted proposals to build the nuclear power plant, including Russia's Rosatom. What do I think of this? Construction of a nuclear power plant is a huge political game. There are only 4 countries in the world that possess technology that can actually build a nuclear power plant. They are Russia, China, South Korea, and France. And in my opinion, right now, Russia has the least chances to become the general contractor. Let's wait and see. It's just too high of a risk of falling under international sanctions. Russia, I'll remind you, Russia is finishing or was finishing constructing a power plant in Turkey. And this is, right now, should be the final stages, but the construction has been frozen, stopped, because of the sanctions. Turkish don't want Russians to keep on constructing it anymore. So I will keep my eyes open and will keep you posted on what is happening in Kazakhstan in its new nuclear power plant. And the next news is from the USA, Washington, D.C. The Russian ambassador to the United States, Antonov, Anatoly Antonov, this is the guy, has left his position and returned to Moscow. Notably, none of the senior officials in the United States bid them farewell. Neither a traditional farewell reception nor a dinner were held. No one even spoke to him on the telephone. And this, my friends, has never happened in diplomatic relations between the two countries. No, why? Well, it's pretty obvious. Let me just give you a little bit information of this guy. Antonov served as Deputy Minister of Defense. He is one of the top Russian generals. Well, he was. He served in the Ministry of Defense from February 2011 until December 2016, and he was actively involved in the annexation of Crimea. As a result, he was placed under personal sanctions. He is remembered as the only ambassador ever under sanctions. A new Russian ambassador to the United States of America will be appointed after the presidential elections in November are held. The next news is also from Iran. Iran is the newsmaker today. A mysterious earthquake occurred in Iran on October 6. The shaking was recorded by the experts all over the world. Naturally, the international media began to report that it was not the earthquake. Not the earthquake at all, but an underground nuclear test or explosion. Other media outlets were quick to accuse those who were telling it wasn't the earthquake of conspiracy. And there's a huge fight going on right now. But the most interesting is not what the newspaper all over the world say. In Iran, obviously, it was an earthquake, right? But the most interesting is what the locals report. People who live nearby in Iran claim that the shaking occurred very close to the nuclear power plant. And they are absolutely sure it was not an earthquake, not natural stuff. And what does Israel say? Well, Israel keeps silent on whether it has something to do with the earthquake or at the Iranian nuclear facilities or not. It keeps silent and smiling. Okay, friends, before I jump to the next news, let me take a sip of this wonderful English breakfast tea. I usually drink the Twinings and, or, well, both Taylor's at Harrogate. English breakfast is my favorite, so thank you, English people, for this wonderful tea. I also would like to thank everyone who has been helping me in this pretty difficult time of demonetization. Thank you so very much. I'm still demonetized. Talking to someone from Google, hopefully will be monetized, but that's not clear at all. But it doesn't matter. Monetized or not, I keep on going live every single day, and you have my promise. I will keep on going. So everyone who sent me emails, messages, sent me prayers, good wishes, words of encouragement, good comments, watched the videos and liked them, those who sent prayers and love, those who bought coffees at buymeacoffee.com, became patrons at patreon.com, transferred funds straight into PayPal. Thank you so very much, friends. What you're doing is helping me tremendously. It shows me that I'm not alone, and there's a community, bunch of people who support me, who like what I do, and who send me their love. Thank you so very much. I would have died without you. So let's go to the next news. It comes from Belarus, from its president Lukashenko. And check this out. We will be supporting the Ukrainians. because we understand that the next will be us. And I want you to take a very good look at the faces of these people who are listening to Lukashenko. What do you think? What do you think they're thinking? Are they happy campers? Do they agree with Batka says? Well, let me explain a little bit. Again, we will support Ukraine because we understand that it will happen to us next, said Lukashenko in his speech. And then he refers here to the possible aggression of Poland towards Ukraine. Poland towards Ukraine. After Russia invaded Ukraine, Lukashenko suggesting Poland will invade Ukraine after Russian invasion is over. Poland is planning to invade Ukraine and build defensive fortifications along its border with Russia and Belarus as a part of the Eastern Shield program. That's what he's getting really at. Lukashenko did not explain why Poland is not acting now when Ukraine is weak and simply cannot put up defense. Poor Ukrainians. Russia and Belarus are such great peaceful neighbors, but Poland is the aggressor. It hasn't invaded Ukraine, but it will. You see? When I read news like that, ground kind of starts spinning in my head. In my head. This is beyond cynism and madness. This is something else. I don't know what to say, but I hope you all appreciate the craziness that guy is telling. And clearly, people, again, please look at the people. Clearly, they're not believing him. Thank goodness. Yeah, we're gonna be supporting the Ukrainians. I'm glad looking at their faces, okay, and the reaction, because I think it's natural. The next news comes from the USA again. 2 Chinese citizens were convicted in the USA and sentenced to 4 years in prison each for iPhone fraud. They defrauded Apple when they exchanged 6,000 fake iPhones for real ones under warranty. It caused damage to Apple worth more than $2.5 million. The reason I picked this news is because it's amusing. It's nearly impossible to fake an iPhone. Each phone has 2 unique numbers, a serial number and IMEI. Both are registered with Apple, and every phone is easily traceable. Every device of Apple, not just iPhone, every device is very easily traceable. I have used iPhone since 2008, and I have never seen a fake iPhone. Moreover, I have not even heard of a fake iPhone. Well, the Chinese tried, and they proved that it's nearly impossible to defraud Apple. Now, can Apple defraud you? That's a different question. The next couple news are amusing. Remember, I promised you the amusing news. No, this is something else. This is crazy news wrapped into crazy news, surrounded by the crazy news. Okay. You all know that Russia has been isolated from the rest of the world now. It's been kicked out of all international sports competitions and tournaments. In all sports, Russia has been kicked out of all competitions. This is, pretty shameful, actually. And what does Russia do now? What do Russian athletes do now? Well, The ones who could, they have left Russia, and the ones who couldn't, they're still playing sports, doing sports in Russia. So the Russian authorities, they gotta come up with something, right? And that's what the best idea that they have had is they organize own competitions now, like world championships where only Russian teams play, that type of thing. And recently, Russia organized an international basketball tournament. That's pretty cool. Russian basketball club called Parma from the city of Perm in the Urals invited Team Colombia in the competition called the Cup of Friendship, or the Friendship Cup. Sounds very good. Sounds very serious. It's a pretty big deal, The Friendship Cup. Ice hockey has a competition called Canada Cup, the top competition, the best of the best. The Canadians stage. I don't know if they still do it, but they used to in the past, and this is the best. And and in Perm now, they have a pretty darn serious tournament too, the Friendship Cup. And this is proven. Team Colombia, from all the way from South America, from Colombia, came to play. The Friendship Cup, And this is the evidence, the game happened. I won't beat around the bush here. Team Colombia lost to Parma 53-155. Obviously, Team Colombia had a terrible game. It's not like Parma players that good, but hey, they won. After the game, the coach of Colombian team, Jorge Vasquez, said that he felt guilty because of the 3-digit difference in the score. Well, what are you gonna do? They came, they played the Russian boys, and they lost. Let's move on. Not so fast. Soon after the game, the Colombian Basketball Federation announced that it had not received any invitation to participate in the Friendship Cup tournament in Russia. And obviously, it did not send its national team to play in Perm. Huh? What? The Russian Basketball Federation, this national Basketball Federation, stated in return that the game was organized in full accordance with the international documents and confirmations. I guess, unfortunately, the official documents and confirmations could not be present as evidence of legitimacy. That they've been lost, misplaced somewhere. Those secretaries always misplace papers in Moscow and headquarters. Trust us. We had confirmations. So Russian news agency RBK Sport, a pretty big one, did own investigation and could not find a single basketball player in the Colombian national team that played the game in Perm who had previously played for the national team of Colombia. Luis Almaza, Romario Roque, Hansel Atencia, and other famous Colombian players did not come to Russia. They do play for real Team Colombia, but they have no clue about that Friendship Cup, In recent years, Guillermo Moreno Riumki, one of the most decorated specialists in the country, has been coaching the national team. In Perm, Team Colombia was coached by a fellow named Jorge Vasquez, who felt sorry for losing so bad. But it was not possible to find any data about him as a member of professional basketball. No history. And not too much information about the players had been found. The ones who played for Colombia opposing Parma. The best scoring Colombian player on the court, David Blanco, In 2022, he was registered in an application to the professional team called Condors from Kondinamarka. But the club doesn't even have an official website. It kind of doesn't exist, you know? Kevin Munoz, another player, has never played for the national team of Colombia. His player card can be found on the official FIBA website, that's International Federation of Basketball, but only among the 3-on-3 players. So this is what they did. I was thinking about it, and this is circus, right? They probably had $2,000 in cash on their hand. They found a few Colombians living permanently in Perm. Paid one guy to act as coach. Let's say they paid him as coach, the $1,000, and then the rest they took as players, and they paid them $100 each. Okay, and there you go. You have the international tournament, the Friendship Cup. That's how it was born. The game was played, and the news went all over Russia. Hey, we are back into the international basketball because Team Colombia has come to play to Russia. Team Colombia is with us. Scandal? Nah. It's more like mad circus and shame than scandal. My country has turned into one big shame. No matter where you look, all you see is shame. I'm telling you, things like that were absolutely unthinkable, impossible back in the day. And there's some kind of virus that got into Russians' heads and it's destroying, eating them within. I don't know how else to explain it. Team Colombia playing in Perm. Fake Team Colombia. Holy mackerel. Well, let me tell you something. The next news is also about sports. Things like I just told you about, they don't go unnoticed by other countries. You know, and it goes not just for the sports, not just for the federations, but for everything in life. Your reputation is the hardest thing to build. It takes years, long time, it takes so many efforts, but it's so easy to destroy your reputation. One wrong move, one lie, one crime, and that's it. It's over. So this is where Russian reputation is. What they did in Colombia, with Colombia in Perm, didn't go unnoticed. The boomerang always comes back. The infamous basketball game happened in late August. But now, football team Russia is falling a victim of that. Again, Russian national team has been kicked out of everywhere, including football team. It has very few teams to play with internationally. Like, the only football teams left to play, like North Korea, Syria, Venezuela, Tajikistan, and Pakistan. Well, Tajikistan just refused to play Team Russia. And Pakistan just followed. The reason? They gave this reason as they're just too busy to play with Russia. They have better things to do. They have, this children's games to attend. They have like scrimmages with fans, things like that. More important things than play with Russia. And this is exactly what happens when you disgrace yourself. Okay. This is funny, but at the same time amusing, At the same time sad, not amusing. Funny and amusing, but at the same time sad. Now, let's jump to the last news. And it's the most important news of this week, and it comes from... Well, it's happening right now in western Florida. It's a very large hurricane called Milton. Very powerful, not the most powerful in history, I checked, but very, very powerful. Milton will affect people, and it will test American government. Not just American, Cuban and Mexican too, as Milton is hitting Mexico and Cuba as well. Well, after all, that's exactly what the governments are for, to help citizens in situations like hurricanes before, during, and after. Right now, minutes before I started the live stream, I saw a report of a series of 11 tornadoes hitting the West Florida coast. And the hurricane itself is just 100 miles away, rushing to Floridian coast to make the landfall. A 28-foot wave was just recorded in the middle of Milton in the Gulf of Mexico. And it's pretty scary. And I hope that all stay safe, and I pray for all affected. For the Americans, for the Cubans, and for the Mexicans. At the same time, I'm shocked by the reaction I've heard from the Russians, well, some Russians. There are two kinds of reactions I've been hearing for the last couple days. First, they are pumping fear and disinformation. Milton is definitely a bad hurricane, but Florida and the Floridians will live through it. They've done it before, and they will live through Milton. Yet in Russia, the prognosis is apocalyptic. America is falling apart. This is the end of America. This is the end of American economy. This will be the end of American dollar. Milton will cause the end. My wife rushed into our living room today. She was pale, scared. We have friends living in Central Florida, and all over the Florida, really. One lives in the Panhandle area, a couple families. One family on the West Coast in Tampa, another family in Central Florida, another family in West Palm Beach, and I have friends living in Miami area. So she was scared. She told me that she heard one person saying that all those Floridians who have not evacuated and who will not evacuate before the landfall will die. They all will be dead. They are dead people walking, 100% guarantee. If they have not fled. And she called her girlfriend in panic and said, have you evacuated? No, oh my gosh, what's going to happen to you? I highly doubt that there will be millions of dead victims in Florida, because millions of people live there. And I said exactly that to Natasha. I'm pretty sure Florida will live through it just like it lived through Andrew, Katrina, and even the Labor Day hurricane. There will be so much disinformation of the damages of how American people are mistreated and so forth. You know what? I have my pen and a piece of paper, and I'm going to be writing everything down. I want to document all the lies they're going to be saying and all the disinformation. I want to let you know how they're going to be exploiting this disaster that is happening right now. And this is sickening. And the second type of reaction, and it's mostly coming from the individual Russians, and I've seen it in the social media, in Telegram channels, and it's pretty bad, Well, the evil Satanists, God punishes them for Russia. They want to destroy Russia. Well, this is the answer. Not from Russia, but from the heaven, itself. Serves them well. I'm pretty sure that you will also hear about these comments from other sources later, too. They're so atrocious, they cannot go unnoticed, okay? I want to tell you that I'm very ashamed that my fellow citizens, I don't know if I can call them fellow Russians, but anyway, that the Russians, and I'm also Russian, are saying that. Please forgive us. On behalf of all decent Russians, I wish people of Florida to get through it and stay safe. As well as I'm wishing the same to the people of Mexico and Cuba. Please forgive us and stay safe. Now, please check out another video I made of how Russians think who is responsible for Ukraine and the disaster that is happening there. I'm gonna put a link right over here. Check it out.